Part of the artistic side of crafting is finding inspiration wherever you are. Hi, I'm your host, Julie fei-fan Balzer. Now, nature teems with inspiration for the artist, especially for Janet Takahashi and her beautiful floral accents on plain lettering. Now, Janet, I'm telling you, these beautiful watercolor, floral, amazing drawings that you've done, that I think you just call them sort of like doodles.
Yeah, they're really easy to do.
Oh,
so let me show you how to do them.
I'm gonna need to see that to believe it.
Well, I'm using this watercolor box, and as you can see, it's hard to see all the colors in here like that. So I make myself a guide. And so there's the guide, and then you can see the colors.
So what you mean is just like the colors as they look in the box are different than they appear when you actually paint them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So then I'm using a water brush, and you fill it with water. It comes with a brush, and you can use the water that's in the brush, but today, just because of the technique I'm going to be using, I'll be using additional water as well.
Because you want it juicy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then instead of paper towels, I'm going to use a towel like this, so it saves on the environment as well.
I do that at home too all the time.
Oh.
Always. Rag instead of paper towel.
That's right. And then we're also going to be using a pigment-based marker for the lettering.
And the reason, of course, you want to use a pigment-based marker is because we're using something wet like watercolors, you don't want it to run all over the place.
That's
exactly.
Right.
So how do we start?
Okay, so let's get started. We're going to do it the botanical first, and so I'll put the water down.
So when you put the water down, you're literally painting
water.
With just water.
That's
There's
right.
no pigment there at all.
That's
and
right.
then you dip into your color. And I notice now you're going onto the palette. Why are you going onto the palette instead of straight off the watercolor?
Because I can get it more juicy and the kind of flower that we're going to be doing.
I see what you mean. It's very wet. You're working super duper wet.
And then we're going to go straight into the paint and drop it in like this.
Ah, so see, I see. You've got water coming out of two different ends. You have the water coming out from behind the brush that's in like the handle of the brush, and then you also have the water you're dipping into. And that's why you're able to get such a soft look without any hard lines.
A wet and wet.
Yeah.
And we're also doing, leaving a lot of white space as well. Makes the flowers sparkle.
I have a lot of trouble leaving white space because I want to cover everything with color.
So then for the leaves, instead of going straight green, which is sometimes really strong, I'm going to go with green, adding a little bit of the same color we just used.
I wouldn't think of for leaves of adding red.
And so we're
that's
making...
Interesting, you were pushing hard on the brush, I saw that, so it made kind of a fat shape, and then you're going to thin. I can tell you're a calligrapher because you use that hard and soft, that fat and thin line all the time. Beautiful.
So they're for flowers. So we have a compatible colored leaf that goes with this flower. Okay, so the next we're going to show you how to do the lettering with that.
Cool.
So let's move on to this brush. It comes in 3 different sizes.
And again, you're wanting to make sure it's something that's waterproof or something like that that's going to work out and not run when you put watercolor near it.
So the thing with this brush is you can use the tip of it, and it's very light, and then you can press harder, add more pressure, and you can get quite a bold stroke with it.
Cool.
And it's also waterproof. Okay. And
you gave me such a cool trick, you said, of how we're going to do this calligraphy style, but not calligraphy hard.
Exactly. Yeah. So then for the lettering, as is a tip. So when you do the lettering, you're going to add pressure on the downstroke and lighten up on the upstroke. Pressure on the downstroke and lighten up.
Man, you make it look so easy.
So next we're going to do is we're going to take gel markers, so either a clear or a silver, as an underbase, and so instead of using a pencil, which you have to erase, we just write with the gel marker.
And I see you've got a nice sparkly Julie.
Exactly, and then when we put the pigment-based marker on top of it, it doesn't matter.
You still see the sparkle through it. That's really cool. I love that tip.
And you don't have to erase it, and you don't even have to be perfect. And the great thing about this is you're going to just use your own handwriting.
Cool.
So here's one that's already written out. Just use the marker to write it out.
Right, and then we saw when you went over it. And then I know that you have the botanical here that's already added to it. So you would just add the watercolor on top of it.
So we're just going to add a flower on top of that.
And you can do any kind of flower you want. You can do multiple flowers, all sorts of cool stuff.
So you can see here we've got a lot of different choices.
Really cool. And I know you eat
see how I'm going on top of the lettering as well, right on top of the marker?
And it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I like things that are easy to do and you don't have to focus too much or think too hard. And
That's
I know
right.
that you had a really, really cool tip for people who are nervous about placing lettering with watercolor, right?
Yes. So here, the flower is already done, and you can write on the tracing paper ahead of time, like this, and then you can put the placement of it to decide where you want to letter. So that's where I decided. And then I just went ahead and wrote.
Yeah, and you can also see how big it is, so you'll know whether, oh, I need to make it bigger, I need to make it smaller. You're really auditioning things so that you don't end up stuck somewhere.
And you can also test the size of the pen.
Yes,
Yeah.
true, because you never know when it comes in all the different tip widths which size you want to use. And if we look at your beautiful finished place cards, right? Who didn't want to take that home from a party, right? Janet, you make this super easy. I want you to do all the place cards for my next dinner party.
Okay, I will.